here's something, a question that we can all ask ourselves. Have you ever given up a belief you held dear because through your reading, experience, and reflection, you became persuaded that it was not reasonable to believe as you did? So all of us can ask this question, have I ever given up some belief that I had? And you can say, why did I give it up? What evidence led me to that? An example I can think of, I was going to mention, is an example that Daniel Ellsberg gives. And he was the one who released the Pentagon Papers, that Vietnam was in essence an unethical war. And this evidence was being suppressed. Long before this, Daniel Ellsberg was part of, I think he saw himself as sort of part of the government, and he was an apologist for the government, and he believed in the government. And he himself asked to be sent to Vietnam to see for himself. And it was through these moves that he made that he came to see these problems on the part of the United States government in the Vietnam War. But when he talks about this, he talks about how he became physically ill when he faced this, when he finally opened his mind to this possibility. And I think, putting it in my words, allowed the information, the facts to flood in, that he had a physical reaction to this that made him sick. So I wanted to bring this example up because I think it's a beautiful example of someone who was prejudiced in this regard, and yet all along he must have had some intellectual humility, some great confidence in reason, more than most in that position. And then therefore he was able to at some point open that lens, push back his prejudices enough to be able to see the facts. And when it did, it wasn't easy. You know, when this process happened, it wasn't easy. So for anybody who's hoping to or trying to experience this, know that you may experience something like that, where you look at something and suddenly you realize, I've been wrong all of this time.
This goes into intellectual humility a lot, but also confidence in reason. I would often ask my students in relation to something like this about what are some beliefs you had, say, 10 years ago. Now my students are around 20. So what are some beliefs you had, say, 10 years ago that you believed with your whole heart and soul, and now you see that they don't hold water, that you don't believe them at all? And they could easily enunciate those, and sometimes they were a little abashed at enunciating those. But then the follow-up question is, so what beliefs do you have now? Not what beliefs do you have now? What are the chances that all the beliefs you have now are going to turn out to be true 10 years from now? And that's a kind of question that kind of shakes your foundation a little if you take it seriously. That is, I can't rely on just my experience or my beliefs that as they've evolved through my life, but yet that doesn't enable me to pick out individually which beliefs are wrong, but just to have the intellectual humility that by exercising my reason, I will come to superior views in the future, and I'll use the word tend to be comfortable with that, even if I'm temporarily uncomfortable with it.
Well, see, I think that people they can, as it were, accept the theory, the virtues. And this example that you gave is interesting, because now you take a person who's about 20 and say, go back to when you're about 10. And now I think that's a lot easier
Right.
in terms of finding problems in your thinking, then you've changed.
Right.
Then for us to say, now what are the problems in your thinking right now?
Mm-hmm. Oh,
And
yeah.
this is almost impossible for us to do.
Mm-hmm.
So what I think is we have to find triggers for ourselves, or let's say warnings.
Mm-hmm.
So often I think the rational mind is there to assist us, but we're not listening to it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say, for example, someone is on social media a lot, and that person is also feeling depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the person is on social media and feeling a little depressed. Now, maybe the mind in that case says, I wonder if this is a good idea,
Mm-hmm.
be doing this all the time. And then the mind just continues doing it,
Mm-hmm.
rather than saying, let me follow that. Maybe this isn't such a great idea. Let me do a little analysis here. Let me just get off of social media for a minute and think about this. So what I'm saying is often we have the warnings that we don't pay attention to.
Right.
We will ask a question, but we don't follow it through.
Right.
I'll get to that later. Yeah,
Right.
I'm a little down, but I'm always a little down.
Right.
So we're not taking our own critical thinking seriously. It may be just a tiny bit of critical thinking, but I say follow that.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to that, and don't just keep doing the same things that are maybe what you maybe say, oh, it's just wasting my time.